Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction and review for Succession Season 4, Episode 10, titled With Open Eyes. This is the series finale. We have made it to the end of the road. We can all smile because this is a happy, pleasant ending
my
where
goodness.
everybody gets exactly what. No, this is okay. This has been a very dark show from the start. And I think the broader comparison, because there's a lot of little things we can get into on a micro level, and I'm sure we will,
We
is
will.
just that you watch a show like Breaking Bad and you become attached to the character of Walter White, and he's also a really bad person who kills people and does terrible things, and in the end he gets what he deserves. I will say that the
Man,
Succession.
people were very angry about the ending of Breaking
Yeah.
Bad, but I thought it was a 10 out of 10. It was done so well, and it really did end the way that it needed to end.
Yeah, he's a bad person who got what he deserves. This is the story of how Shiv, Roman, and Kendall Roy lost. I am not. I'm sure there are other ideas out there. I will do battle in the comments, but that's my takeaway from this series finale. That these are bad people who had something very bad happen to them as a result of years of bad actions. We find ourselves here.
This is going to be a really interesting comment section.
Yes.
Because seeing what's going on social media right now, I took a quick peek before I came on here. Wow, it is like across the board pretty divided. I mean, most people are like, yes, overall, ending the show this way, does make some sense. I think a lot of people thought that it was maybe going to go this way. But there's definitely a lot of people that are like, if Ken's not the king, then, the show is dead to me kind of thing, which is, you didn't get what you wanted. But that's the thing about, landing the plane at the end of a series. Not everybody's going to like the choice that's made. Like if Ken was king and, Shiv and Roman weren't, there's going to be groups of people that are not going to be happy with that. This is sort of like let's just make everybody unhappy except for the Tom people. And there is definitely a group of Tom people out there that are going to be celebrating tonight or eating good. Because Tom, wow, what a turnaround on this show for him.
Yeah, there's so much to get into. We're gonna break everything down. We'll talk reactions, our
Yep.
critical take on this. But before we do go further, I know Succession is ending, and I know Yellow Jackets had its finale recently. I know Ted Lasso is having its finale in a couple days. This is a tough time for all prestige TV fans out there. But you know what? There's still great prestige TV on the air right now,
Yep.
including Silo, a very
So
intense
good.
dystopian drama that's on Apple TV Plus. It's full of great theories. Which is on MGM Plus.
It's so good. We had been recommended from you guys from so many times, and we just binged it this past week. We have our review up right now for the episode that aired tonight, which I'm sure is going to have like some tough time with it being like the end of Succession. Everybody's watching that, but From is excellence done by the executive producers of Lost. So if you loved Lost, even if you didn't like the ending, the journey was still great. I mean, and this show so far, excellent.
Yeah, we are going to continue to cover these other shows. We hope you guys stick around for the ride. They are very, very much worth your time.
Absolutely. We have lots of good stuff coming up, so hit that subscribe button.
Okay, let's just talk a little bit about Tom, since you've already mentioned him. Tom, the new CEO of everything when it's all said and done. This is really interesting because there was this theory that emerged over the past 24 hours, and I apologize for not remembering the exact name of the theorist who posed this, but it was on TikTok, and it sort of summarized that Tom, because of his last name Wambsgans, being a tie to a baseball player from 100 years ago, being named Bill Wambsgans, who is known for having a triple play in the playoffs, that Tom was going to have a triple play, overtaking all three Roys and ending up being on top. Now, I mean, I guess you can say that's true, right?
It's true.
I saw that theory. I was like, wasn't that kind of like the season 3 finale? Like, didn't Tom already kind of do this already?
Kind of, but then of course Logan passed away, and then he was just flailing. He was just kind of this rudderless boat. But I mean, he really secured his position with Matsson. And, it was interesting because it was Shiv that was really pushing him to be like, hey, you need to get in there. You need to talk to him. Like, it's really important for you to make a connection with him, because if I'm the CEO, I'm doing what I can to try to make sure that you're going to be taken care of. And she was doing the best that she could. I mean, Matsson's kind of weird and does his own thing.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do, right? But it turned into Tom basically securing his position as CEO. Matsson, this was done so well. So if you guys remember back in season 1 when Logan decided to unretire himself because Kendall made an old joke on his birthday and was just like, hey, you old man sort of thing. And then he looked down and he saw this magazine that had Kendall on the front of it, The Heir with the Flair. Now here we are with Matsson, who's, also sort of a big, powerful guy, looking down at this cartoon of Shiv puppeting him. And all of a sudden it's like, nope, she's out. I don't want somebody who's filling my head with ideas. Also, I want to, sleep with her. So, she can't be CEO. I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, Matsson is the absolute worst. Like, everybody on this show is terrible. But like, as soon as he said that, I was like, wow, he's really terrible. However, I think it was also very purposeful because he knows obviously about the pregnancy. He knows that Tom is a father. I think he was testing to make sure that he can say whatever he wants and do whatever he wants, and Tom will be like, yes, sir. And the minute that Tom was like, yes, sir, he got the job.
Tom is not always a particularly likable character, but let's be honest, there aren't a lot of particularly likable characters on this show, and it's just like, to me, Tom ending up in charge makes a whole lot of sense at the end of the day. It may not be what people want, but that is Tom's greatest skill. He doesn't really publicly want anything. He just wants whatever the person above him tells him to do, and in the business world, there is nothing more valuable than a yes man, and Tom is a top-tier yes man. He will go along with anything. He doesn't have the Roy last name attached to him, so he doesn't have all this sort of like legacy attention that directly comes from that. He has like just enough business training and education to not come across as incompetent. Like all you cousin Greg people out there that were just like, Greg's got this, he's gonna, what's like, yes, Jesse Armstrong is a very dark soul, clearly, but he's not gonna go so far out of the realm of like realism that we're gonna have like a wind-up toy in Greg running things at the end.
Well, that's the thing, obviously, about Greg that we've seen since the beginning. Like, he will screw over whoever he has to get what he wants out of it. We saw it in this episode, too. As soon as he figured out Shiv is out and, he made the call. He made the call right away to Ken to be like, hey, this is what I know. Make sure you take care of me. And that was sort of what I was saying about Greg a couple videos ago. If you take care of Greg, Greg will take care of you. And he always seems to have information, and he just wants to be positioned properly. And, he was starting to flail and feel like he wasn't going to be positioned properly. So he took this information to work a deal. And if it had turned, he may have worked out a good deal. If Ken was king, I mean, I think he probably would have kept that to be like, hey, you made this whole thing happen for me, so I'll make sure that, you're eating well, sort of thing. But instead, we're here in this position where it's like, he screws over Tom, or Tom thinks that it could go that way. Everybody's mobilized, and, lucky for Greg, Tom still ends up on top, where Greg's like, hey, where's the position for me? I was really surprised. I know that no one's going to agree with me on this, but I was really surprised that Tom decided to keep Greg after all of that, because he really almost cost him the top ring on that. And for something like that, to know that he can't trust him and now he's in a CEO position, having him around and knowing what Greg is willing to do to climb the ladder, Greg is still willing to do those things to Tom to climb the ladder. And he is somewhat close with Madsen, yes, he did, call him what he called him and whatever, but that doesn't mean he can't repair that relationship.
This is really tricky.
Greg is just really good at repairing things.
Greg is so inoffensive to a lot of people
Yes.
that he's very great at nobody taking him seriously. That is his biggest. He is such a clown.
Yeah, he plays the turkey.
Yeah, and that's all fine. I think Tom is thinking here with his heart instead of his head. Tom on some level loves Greg, but I think
absolutely.
I think he loves Greg because I think he loves to beat up on Greg. I don't even mean that physically like we saw in that one scene, but I think he just loves having somebody who he can just rail on, who will take it, not destroy his public image. He can do it behind the scenes and, destroy things and, pound his chest and be all sorts of ridiculous. I will say I did love very much the, boop, there's your sticker, Greg.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see really where things are, because I think that even though they've been very dedicated to each other, Tom has pulled Greg along for a lot of stuff. Their relationship has changed. Like, it's not what it was. Greg really messed up.
Yeah, and it's going to put Tom now in a obviously very interesting position, because he's going to be the ultimate yes man now to Lucas, who, as you have said, is a unobjectively terrible person. He's not somebody you want to be taking orders from. But like, here's even the other crazier thing about all this is that, per a lot of information that's out there, Jesse Armstrong didn't tell everybody on Succession that it was the final season until right before this episode started shooting. I kind of wonder if he had it somewhere in his head. Maybe we will do a season 5, and that season 5 is also going to be about the downfall of Matsson, because Matsson has enough terrible skeletons in the closet where a lot of them could be coming out as well, and this cycle could just perpetuate in eternity, because I don't see Matsson staying in charge of anything forever either, because he sucks. He's terrible. He's an egomaniac. He sends people blood. He doesn't have a lot of things.
And he inflates his numbers. Not everything about him is honest.
Yeah, and so to me, there's always going to be this question of who will ever actually end up having stability with this company. But I think for the time being, it will be Tom, just because Tom, you're too boring to have any of these sort of skeletons in your closet. It's like you have done some bad things, but you are not sending anybody blood. You're not going to have that level of scandal.
Yeah, I mean, he had his relationship that was open with Shiv in their marriage. And I mean, most people won't think that that's anything, but some might in that world. But for me, there was a real sadness about watching the company leave the Roy family. And, I know that's what Logan wanted. He wanted the company sold. He didn't think that his kids were serious people. Roman even kind of parroted that at the end, where he was just like, we're not the people. Like, this is not for us. And seeing him smile at the end after it was all done, I was like, oh man, at least, Roman's going to be happy. It's almost like he feels like he's free of all of this. But there was something that just felt so sad watching that legacy that Logan just worked for and put together for himself, for his family, for the future, for his grandchildren. It's just and now it's all just with Matsson. So there was a sadness about it. I mean, I know they were all kind of talking about it too, where it was like, oh, Shiv's kid could, have this sort of thing. And Roman said that thing about Kendall's kids maybe not being biologically his, which, is such a ridiculous thing to say or think. I mean, biracial couples have children that look like anything. It's such a ridiculous thing to say.
These are all ridiculous people, not serious people, ridiculous people, bad people, no matter how you want to frame it. And it's sort of there's an inherent sadness that comes from seeing them lose everything. I mean, I will also admit, I am probably going to be one of those people charging into the comments with my sword and shield ready to defend this finale against a lot of people, because I feel like I probably overall like it probably a lot more than some people out there probably are going to. And I know I just said probably about 500 times, but you know what? I'm fine with it. I think this finale accomplished really exactly what it set out to, and that was to just show us the darkness that lives within these people, but also the immediacy of what happens when their entire world gets stripped away and they lose this very thing they've identified with. Like you pointed it out with Roman, like there's always that part of Roman where I don't know why, but we all still want to just root for him to some extent. And
I know that Mencken episode. I was like, why am I Team
I
Rome until the
know.
wheels fall off? And then the next episode, we're like in the funeral, and I'm like, oh, can I just hug him? He needs a hug. He needs all the hugs.
I felt so bad for Roman throughout, like when Kendall was like hugging him with the stitch it, and then it's like at the end when I think he is relieved.
I think he's relieved. It was nice to get, like, I was actually really worried because I saw some people kind of talking about, like, hey, are we going to get a time jump? I'm like, oh, please, no. Like, this show doesn't need that. It's been all sort of real time as we've been going day after day since Logan passed away. I'm really glad they did it the way that they did it. It was nice to sort of see how it all kind of affected them, where we saw that Roman seems like he's possibly happy that he could go forward and have a little bit of relief. We saw, Tom get into the car with Shiv where he offered his hand to her. She had asked him earlier in the episode, hey, listen, like now that we've gotten everything on the table and we've said all the horrible things, do you want to have like a truthful relationship with me? And at that time he was like, I'm not sure. I don't know if I can do that. But then he got into the car with her and offered his hand. So I like to think that that's where it's going to be. And then there's Kendall.
Oh boy.
Listen, all throughout this whole show, it's been Kendall and Water have equaled really bad things. Yeah. Everything with the waiter, everything with himself. I know we saw him also go into the water and kind of look like he was celebrating. Now he's back at the water again. And one of the things that he said, and I believe him, that he needed this company for himself. There's lots of people, I'm one of these people, that work gives you sort of some validity. It makes you feel good about yourself. You feel good when you do a good, day's job. And for him, I think him working was something that really gave him purpose. It gave him a connection to his dad, and it was going to be a lifelong connection to his dad. He was going to be filling his dad's seat. He was going to be able to make his dad proud, and his dad wouldn't be able to tell him otherwise, that he would just be doing the best that he could, thinking his dad was proud of him. And that's just gone. And now it's like, okay, he doesn't have Rava. He's not, with his kids really that often. Now he doesn't have this. He doesn't have that connection to his dad anymore. And he's by the water.
It's bad. It's really, really bad.
I know we're never going to know, but I don't think Kendall makes it.
Yeah, I have my doubts. And it's so hard for Kendall, too, because he could have had everything. Like, he really could have had everything.
Yeah.
He is an insanely smart guy who has so many demons that he was not able to conquer. Like everything with the waiter. Like I've said for weeks I thought the waiter was going to come back up, but it's also just
and it did. Him lying.
Yeah.
To Shiv was the thing that like totally clinched it. I think she was like a little bit obviously on the fence about it. The minute that she was like, you killed that person, and he was like, I made that up. I was like, it's over. No. It's over. You should have just been like, yes. And I have felt terrible about it, and I feel terrible about it every day. Whatever he could have said, but not I lied about it.
I know. And it's just, once again, it's Kendall. You found a way to lose this, and you found a way to lose something that you could have won if you had just been up front. You didn't try to dance around it. You played to you played that you're smarter than everybody else, and that you're able to control everybody else. And you try, and he's tried too much these past few weeks in particular to be like his father when he's not his father. And that's okay. But him, everything that happened with Rava a week ago, everything he's been doing, isolating everybody. It just there were a ton of people out there that thought we had a Godfather 2 ending coming with Kendall, or he was going to win and he was going to lose everything. And it's just like, this is not the sort of show that's going to do that. And I just think for Kendall, his entire arc has been about all these different ways that he has consistently just ruined his opportunity to take hold of something else. And I want to also send out a quick apology note here to Bob Odenkirk, to even Kieran Culkin, to every other Best Actor contender for the Emmys this year. I'm so sorry, but Jeremy Strong just destroyed all of you.
I disagree.
You still think somebody else?
Yeah, no, it's not him.
I think Jeremy, just that 5-minute scene with Roman, with him leaving, the camera just like shot on
It's
him.
Roman. It's Kira. No.
See, I'm not a fan of.
It's gonna be a race and it's gonna be tough, but it's not gonna be Jeremy this time around.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult to say. Like, I will say this: if I had to hang out with one of the two of them in real life, 100%, it's Kieran Culkin.
I think it was really interesting also that this last scene was Kendall by himself with Colin. And, you know, we know that, you know, Logan did spend a lot of time by himself. We had that scene with him and Colin too, where he was like, you're my friend. You're my best friend. I'm like, oh, that's so sad. Like, you know, like this is where you are. You have a big family and like everything is sort of turning out like this. So it was interesting to see that that's how it ended with Kendall, that he's by himself with Colin.
So sad. So all this stuff is so sad. Now,
though it was good to see that video of Logan with everyone, sort of the old guard at the table.
This was my
because we're getting into Connor's corner now.
We are getting into Connor's corner, and that was my favorite moment of the entire series finale. And the reason why is that was the kids, the Roy trio, actually seeing, I think, really for one of the first times, like the real Logan, just sort of like messing around with his friends, these people that he worked with. He was never able to really separate work life from personal life. So, of course, it makes sense that he would consider these people to be his friends. But Connor doing I'm a little teapot with also the classic Logan F off. Alan Ruck, when he got this script, he just like threw himself a party, popped some champagne.
He's so great. It was so funny. It was so well done.
Like all of that, I think was just so great as a contrast. And to just have Brian Cox back and just like that part of this was really great. And for the rest of this episode, though, for, you know, my guy, Connor, my favorite Succession character, one of my favorite television characters ever. What a high and low episode this is for you, Connor. I mean, for starters, everybody else is spending their time trying to think about how they're going to, you know, take over the company. You spent like 3 hours on this sticker system that was so complicated. I cannot repeat any of it. I don't understand any of it now.
It was also kind of surprising to hear that him and Willow were going to be like living separately, that there was sort of like this idea of whatever it was that they were going to have going on. She was going to be working on plays and he was going to be working on something else, and that they were going to be sort of having this separate life. I will say that that was something that I did not like, because what I did like about their relationship is that it was very honest with how it was, and it was very supportive of each other, and sort of this idea that she was going to just basically go and live another life. I was just like, oh, that's really too bad that that's where it's going. It didn't have to be like that.
It bummed me out. Like it did, because I have been on this ridiculous hill that they are the best couple in the Succession world, because they really did, you know, seemingly care about each other. Sure, their love is not the same as a lot of, you know, romantic love out there, but
it was honest.
It was honest. There was still something there. And I, of course, really worry what's going to happen now. I mean, I think, Connor, you may have done a lot of things that were entertaining here, but you shouldn't have taken this ambassadorship thing. Like, you should have just been like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do the speaking tour. I'm just going to write the book. Like, Connor is so desperate he may claim that he's not a needy love sponge, but he is so desperate to feel important that he thinks going off to Slovenia and hanging out with Luca, that like this is going to be enough for him to really just feel happy and have that hole in his heart filled up a little bit. And it's just, they're not going to care about you in Slovenia, Connor. I care about you here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll talk briefly about sort of the kids coming together before all this happened, because seeing them at their mother's house licking the cheese and making the blender juice and like throwing it on Kendall's head, it was so nice to see them actually just be siblings and be silly and have a laugh, because like that is not something that we have really seen on this show.
Do you think that after that scene was filmed, Jeremy just walked around the set with that blender on his head for a few more
I'm
minutes?
sure he
And
did.
was just like, I need you guys to all laugh at me so I can figure out exactly. See, what if
I'm sure he did.
You're a great performer, Jeremy. Don't get me wrong. I'm just going to miss talking about your methods in some of these videos, but that whole scene was just so much fun. Also, you know, maybe you're right. Maybe Kieran should be the favorite just for the cheese scene.
No, he is for the funeral scene. That was it. That clinched it for me. I think he's got it.
So Kieran, we want you to lick the cheese, and we want you to do it for
Kieran's
100
so
more
funny.
takes.
He's so funny.
It's so disgusting. I
Oh,
could not.
so funny.
This episode, it really, I think, brought out almost everything. Like the Connor stand of me, of course, wanted more Connor, but like in general, almost all the main players had a little bit of a role. We had, you know, a couple of minutes of my guy Stewie doing Stewie things. We had Carl and Frank, you know.
And they're going to get cut. I mean, like, you know, at least we sort of had some idea. You know, we saw Carl and Frank being like, one more time, you know, go around, or is it time to take the shoot? And they were like, oh, maybe one more time around. But they're getting cut. And it was nice to see that Jerry is not.
Yes. Good for you, Jerry. Congratulations.
She's too valuable.
She's too good at this job. That's just sort of the thing. I'm happy that Jerry at least can walk away with this with like some part of her head held high. There's a lot of other people who, to be frank, just don't deserve it. But you know what? We're here. I think this finale is going to be very much discussed for a very, very long time.
Yeah, for me, for the most part, I think that they stuck the landing. I think this was a really good finale. Not everybody's going to get what they want out of it, but you know what? Life isn't fair, and that's the way that it is. Seeing Tom in that position, it makes the most amount of sense.
Yeah.
Seeing, you know, Logan's wishes fulfilled even after death. He wanted the company sold. It's sold. Like, it turned into exactly what he wanted. And, you know, seeing the idea that Roman might be happy, that's all right. I think that Shiv and Tom are going to figure something out. They do have a lot more of an honest relationship. And she even said, do you want to try this but honest now? So she's ready to move forward completely honest, which is what they needed in the first place. I was only just sort of a little bit disappointed with the Greg being still brought along. I got you. I'm just like, for why? Like, you know, he's just gonna screw you over the next time he has an opportunity to. He just showed you that he will. He's done it before. He'll do it again. Like, why would you risk your whole spot for that? Like, it's just kind of like, whatever.
I think the biggest compliment I can give to this finale is it stayed true to the show that Succession is, and that it honored the show, it honored the story. You look at Game of Thrones, it did not honor the show properly. I didn't hate the finale as much as some people, but it really didn't pay tribute in the right way to everything that came before it. How I Met Your Mother totally just like completely did not stay true to its own self. And I think if you can at least deliver on what you promised and give people an ending that you can look back on and see, okay, I understand there was intentionality behind every little thing, then you can feel satisfied. Even if you hate a lot of these people, and you should hate a lot of these people, they mostly suck. But you know what? This was a great ride. I think this is the top tier show.
Forever.
Yeah, I'm going to miss it so much. Now, I got to go lick some cheese, so we're going to wrap up this video. No, I'm not doing that.
I am not doing
No,
that.
nobody's licking any cheese. Kieran's never tasting cheese ever again.
Probably not.
No, but thank you guys so much. As we said earlier, check out our coverage of Silo, of From. We want you guys to hang out with us more and talk all sorts of great TV.
Absolutely. And thank you to all our Patreons that help support the channel. We really appreciate you.
We do, and we will see you here next time.